the soccer podcast with no name. 6 topics, 4 minutes each, 6 quick hits, 1 minute each. Add a little banter, sprinkle a bit of trolling, then you got a whole lot of entertainment. Let's get this show on the road, shall we? Hello, everyone. Welcome to the soccer podcast with no name. My name is Cheez. I'm joined here by my co-host, Bongz. Bongz, how are you doing this week?
Hey, Mr. Cheez, I'm not doing too bad this week. I'm just looking forward to return of, domestic football because these World Cup things are very emotional.
Yeah, and then we don't want to say it, but they're pretty boring. Speaking of World Cup qualifiers, in their first couple of games of the 2022 World Cup qualifiers, Bafana drew against Zimbabwe and won against Ghana. Is this new Bafana team competitive enough to represent the nation in Qatar next year?
Yeah, look, for me, I think the new Bafana setup, I never gave it a chance from the get-go because remember, this is what we're supposed to do back then. I don't know, maybe 90, what, if I may put it, because we're always saying we are building afresh, starting afresh. We had Vision 2022, it's 2021, a few months away from the World Cup, and again, we bring on a Bruce to bring Bafana to a competitive age. But, I never gave them a chance. These are young guys, inexperienced. You have to be very, I don't want to say subjective, but, you have to look at the facts. And at the end of the day, a young team, a young inexperienced team can either go there and do good, but they can only get you so far. Because remember, they may be hungry, but without the experience, they may glitch a bit, maybe get stuck. Even saw it in the game that they were playing. They missed opportunities that I think my grandmother could have scored. There was a chance there where a guy, I think it was Ofori who made a mistake. The ball went through his legs, and all he had to do, that guy, was tap the ball in, even with his head or his knee or anything. Even his hand, but what he did, he took the ball from going inside the goal to outside the goal. So at the end of the day, for me, the team is not competitive enough. Yes, I do know that they beat Ghana by that odd goal, but at the end of the day, I think there's work that needs to be done. It can, we are at a spot as Bafana where we can say it might have been a fluke, or it might have been, yes, they played a good game. It wasn't too bad by, compared to other games. But for me, I don't think they are competitive enough, because we can't subjectively say so that they've beaten Ghana, maybe they've beaten Mali in the last 6 months, and stuff like that. We can't say that. It's a 50-50 for me. So I can't really say they are competitive enough.
We can't take this or these 2 games seriously. Yes, Bafana have gotten 4 points, which I suppose is great because they went away to Zimbabwe, got a point, and they did the job at home. But one thing that we have to remember is that these teams were not at full strength. Zimbabwe were missing like 13 players, and we failed to beat them. Ghana were missing a whole lot of players from the Premier League, who could not come to the country because our country is one of the red listed countries, because we cannot get a hold of this COVID situation, which is another story for another day. But Ghana were missing key players, and they came here, and you saw Ghana, they didn't look great. Bafana, yes, let's give them credit. They did what they had to do. notwithstanding those misses that we speak of, and that offside, which was not really an offside, but are they competitive enough to even get out of this group? I personally do not think so. I think Ghana are the best team in this group, and the way they performed against Zimbabwe's B team, I don't think South Africa are there yet. As we keep on saying, we are building towards something. I think this World Cup, we should let it go by. I don't think we're going to make it to Qatar next year.
Yes, and moving on to our second statement, former Arsenal manager Arsene Wenger, who is now FIFA's chief of global football development, he is suggesting that the World Cup be played every 2 years. Are you for this idea or against it?
The World Cup has this certain romance to it. It's the World Cup every 4 years. It's highly anticipated. We see the best of the best play against the best of the best in their countries. Of course, now with the internet and with satellite TV, we can see these players week in, week out. Unlike back in the day, players like Ronaldo, we only could see, this is the Brazilian Ronaldo, we only could see at international competitions or when they play those friendlies against Bafana. Now we can see them every week on SuperSport. With that being said, I love the format of, or maybe not the format, or the time between World Cups. 4 years for me is great. I don't want to see every 2 years. It will sort of dilute what the World Cup is about to me. Maybe to other people, it's something different, but to me, it will dilute what the World Cup is about. It's a privilege for you to play in the World Cup. But now, if it's played every 2 years, you can say, even though if I can lose now, I know 2 years later, I can come back and we try again. So I'm not too sure. I haven't done my reading on why Arsene Wenger is suggesting that this is done every 2 years. This is probably the reason why people don't even take the African Nations Cup that serious. It's done every 2 years, and in that case, anybody can win it, and it's not that great of a competition for me. So 4 years for me is fine.
Yeah, I think I have to agree with you there. I don't know what Arsene Wenger is smoking there. I think maybe it's because they gave him a new position there at FIFA now. He's thinking he can do what he was doing at Arsenal. At the end of the day, look at it this way. There are other competitions that play, like you mentioned, the AFCON, that play, in a space of 2 years. Now, if you move the World Cup to a space of 2 years, where are you moving those competitions? Because now it will be a cluster of matches, international matches, and these guys will be on our screens too much. And like you always say, something is enticing and nice when we see it after 4 or 5 years. Now, if you see it every other week, it doesn't become that nice anymore. So I think that Mr. Wenger maybe must try and think of other things. And I think I saw an article where FIFA is saying they will respond to these, allegations or whatever suggestions that Arsenal is doing to shut them down completely, like they did when the other teams tried to make world leagues or something like that. I think it will be shut down as quick as that was shut down. So for Arsene Wenger, amen. Try other ideas. Maybe try telling FIFA to increase the number of African teams in the World Cup. Then maybe we'll support you in that.
Yes, I agree with you there. Speaking of FIFA have opened disciplinary proceedings involving both the Brazilian and Argentinian football associations following the suspension of Sunday's World Cup qualifier at the Neoquimenta Arena, hope I said it right, in Sao Paulo. Who should shoulder most of the blame? And taking into consideration that footballers aren't treated like normal travelers, Are the coronavirus protocols ruining football?
For me, I think they are, verging on the edge of ruining football, because at the end of the day, players want to go play for their national teams and obviously enjoy playing for their domestic teams. But at the end of the day, when you come and say, hey, bring these regulations where guys must test. Hey, these guys have been testing. They even test locally when, they are moving around, maybe going to just across the region to play another team. They have to test. They come back, they have to test, let alone going internationally, you have to test and quarantine. I mean, obviously now they would have been vaccinated. The chances are lower, the percentage is lower of maybe getting sick from this virus. So why are you, still making it a big deal that players must? They can just test. If it's positive or if it's not positive, it's fine, let the guys play. The quarantine stuff, yes, we support that. It's no joke. But at the end of the day, I think it's too much for me. These guys must let the guys play.
Apparently, the story is the Argentinian FA, when they went into Brazil, so each player has to fill out a form, and they were asked, of course, in the past 10 days, were they in a red listed country? The UK, of course, is a red listed country, and a couple of players in the Argentinian squad, of course, play their trade in England, and the Argentinian FA said no. So, of course, that already is a crime, because you cannot lie going into another country. So that's the first mistake by the Argentinian FA. Then apparently a day before the game, they were told that those two players should not even train with the team. Firstly, they got into the country illegally, and number two, they should not even train with the team. But the Argentinian FA is like, screw that, and they decided to train. Then on the day of the game, the Argentinian FA still put these players on the match day squad. So as you can see here, there's a common trend that the Argentinian FA did not handle this properly. Also on CONCACAF's side, I think also they should share some blame. But from my side, I think the Argentinian FA should get at least 80% of the blame. But also on the Brazilian side, they should have handled this issue way before it got to the match, before it got to kickoff, because it gets to kickoff and now they want to call off the game. Many countries paid for the rights to watch that specific game, and I wonder if they are going to give them their money back. And number two, this game, yes, Brazil and Argentina are looking good in the qualifiers, but this game is going to be replayed, or are they going to give them 0-0 points, both of them? So it's very tricky. I will see how CONCACAF handles this, and we'll see who FIFA hands out the worst of the punishment to. But I think everybody here is to blame, but I give the Argentinian FA 80% of it.
Yes, and sticking around with the situation of Corona and red flagged countries, we don't know who gives out these red flags, but anyway, and Premier League clubs banned from playing Brazilian players after blocking international call-ups. Is the Premier League fair in banning the players even after they broke their rules?
The Premier League must not come with their arrogance here, telling countries that they are not allowed to ask for certain players to come play for their country of birth. We understand that they are running a business, and in their business, if certain players have the virus, it can have a domino effect on teams and other players in the certain players in their own teams and the teams that they play against, and that might cost them money. But they must not come here with their privileged attitude to tell players not to go play or represent the country that they're called their home. I think it's unfair, number one, to ban these players. Just like we said in the previous segment, these players are not normal travelers. These players are tested before they get into the plane, after they get into a plane, to the 5 minutes after that, 10 minutes after that, they are tested constantly, and they have doctors in these certain clubs. These are multi-million-dollar clubs that are running their medical departments. So for me, it does not make sense. Yes, they might have broken whichever rules that the Premier League have made, but they have the right to go represent their country. So for me, I think the Premier League in this instance are not fair.
We love the Premier League. We watch them and think their football is great. But I think also they have been smoking something here, because at the end of the day, there are vaccinations that are done. And I think most of these countries have vaccinated. At the end of the day, also, how do they know that South Africa is red flag country? Don't they know that we are also vaccinating? Maybe we should lie to them and say we are 100% vaccinated for them to let our players come play here. They are messing with us. They are messing with other teams as well. Like, suppose we were lucky because Hugo Bruce for Bafana didn't choose the international guys. But for other teams or countries that need their international guys, I think it's unfair to ban them, because at the end of the day, they need to go represent their countries. These are their lives and their jobs that the English teams are playing with. Remember, after that, they will then say Pesita can't play in the English Premier League because he doesn't have enough caps for international team, but they are the same ones blocking the guys to go and play international because of a virus. It's not new, this virus. There's vaccinations. At the end of the day, I think the Premier League is being unfair. They are players. England is busy playing and winning all their games. They have full squad. They've won, I think, 6 of their games now. They want other teams to suffer. No, it's wrong. Premier League, let the players go and stop banning them.
Let's move on to the PSL. The big games to look forward to this weekend in the DStv Premiership are Orlando Pirates against Morocco Swallows and Mamelodi Sundowns against Kaizer Chiefs. How do you see both games going?
For me, the original Soweto derby, obviously, Pirates there and Swallows. I think that it will be a good match because the Pirates, when you look at the league there, I think they are somewhere there at the bottom, number 11. And Morocco Swallows are 7. It will be pretty interesting to see, because remember, Swallows has drawn 1 and won 1, while Orlando Pirates has drawn 2 games. We want to see if Swallows is the same Swallows of last season that can play and end up in second in the table or in the top 4. Or we also want to see if Orlando Pirates, after firing their coach, they can do better. So for me, it will be an interesting match to watch because those teams both want those 3 points. We'll see obviously who's better than who. And Mamelodi Sundowns against Kaizer Chiefs, I think it will be a replay of a match that played earlier on in the season, where obviously the 2 teams clashed and it looked like Mamelodi Sundowns was winning, but Kaizer Chiefs came back with a better second half. So I think this will be a repeat of the match. We want to see who's the better team between Kaizer Chiefs and Mamelodi Sundowns. For Sundowns is the Pizzo, motivation running down. For Kaizer Chiefs are the new players actually fueling up with Baxter under control. So it will be a good match for us to watch. And I think as for the results, what will happen, I'll give Orlando Pirates the win against Swallows, maybe a 2-1 win for Orlando Pirates, and Mamelodi Sundowns against Kaizer Chiefs. I'll give Kaizer Chiefs a 3-2 win.
Yes, these two games are very exciting games. As you said, the original Soweto derby between Orlando Pirates and Moroka Swallows. Of course, they played in the MTN 8, and Moroka Swallows beat Orlando Pirates, and that ultimately cost Jay-Z his job. I also don't understand why they fired him after that game. Were they trying, or maybe it was a situation when they said, since you won the MTN 8 last season, try to win it this season. If you do not, we're gonna have to fire you. So after that one game that was played, unfortunately, the gentleman was fired. Orlando Pirates in the league, after that, they've had 2 draws. Moroka Swallows have drawn the last game and won their first game. So these teams are pretty even, but in that game, in the MTN 8, Moroka Swallows looked better than Orlando Pirates. So I think they have Orlando Pirates number. I'd give that game to Moroka Swallows, 200 Moroka Swallows. Mamelodi Sundowns and Kaizer Chiefs. It's Chiefs are back, and Chiefs are not the same team that they were last season. Now they have a lot more better players, and it seems as though they have also fight in them. When a team is more talented and also mentally is at the right space, it's very dangerous. Mamelodi Sundowns, yes, they are giving us what we expect from them: good football and better football than every team in the league. But it's still early. They are still the favorites, but the way they played against Kaizer Chiefs wasn't too convincing, and their last draw wasn't too convincing for me. So in the result in this game, I'll have to give it to Kaizer Chiefs, also a 2-1 result.
Yes, and moving overseas, the games to look forward to in the Premier League, maybe Leicester City versus Manchester City, if it counts as a big game, and Leeds versus Liverpool, because the rest of the teams are not that great, or fixtures are not that big. In La Liga, we have Valencia at home against Real Madrid, and in the Serie A, Napoli versus Juventus. Which games will you be looking or watching this weekend?
The game I'm looking forward to, of course, is the English Premier League. Leicester City and Manchester City. Leicester City, a very good team. Manchester City, we know all about Manchester City and what they're capable of. But Leicester City, always under the radar. You never see highlights of them on Monday, but they keep on doing their job, and they stay in and about the 6th, 5th, 4th, 3rd spots there. So this won't be an easy game for Manchester City away to Leicester City. Leeds versus Liverpool. Every time Leeds plays, it's an exciting game. Liverpool also, with their high pressing, their high energy football, when they meet with Leeds, it's always entertaining. In this game, I think Liverpool will have the edge. Liverpool this season are a bit better than they were last season, and last season they did beat Leeds in their first game of the campaign. So I think Liverpool will come out trumps there. Valencia at home against Real Madrid. Real Madrid, still not convinced with them. Valencia are around 4th in the table. It's early in the season, so we can't say. Valencia last season lost all their good players. So I really can't take them serious. But Real Madrid also, them, they couldn't get Mbappe. They signed Camavinga, but I still think Real Madrid are a tad below the likes of Atletico Madrid. So that result, I cannot make a prediction on that one, because for me it's tricky. And moving on to Napoli versus Juventus. Juventus lost Ronaldo to Manchester United, but they wanted that man gone. Napoli are a good team. Juventus are a good team. So Juventus being away from home, I think I'll have to give that one to Napoli.
For me, I think in the Premier League, it will be just, as you mentioned, exciting to see Leeds take on Liverpool because of the style of play, attacking football, which is what we want to see. Obviously, Leeds began the season with a loss and followed it up with 2 draws, whereas Liverpool started with 2 wins and then ended up drawing their last previous fixture. I think Liverpool are 5th on the table and Leeds are 15th. So at the end of the day, the Leeds has nothing to lose. They'll be coming for those points because they need them. So I think in that game, I suppose Liverpool will win it maybe by a 4-3 scoreline. And then obviously Leicester versus Man City. City have not necessarily showcased the same team that they have been in the previous seasons. Obviously, they began the season with a loss as well, but have recovered and recouped with 2 wins on the trot. So I think Leicester will have problems there dealing with Man City, who punished Arsenal, I think, in their previous game. I don't see Leicester winning this match. I'll give it to Man City with another 4-0 or something like that. Because that's what they do. That's what Pep does. Going to La Liga, I don't even think La Liga, we should mention it nowadays. No Ronaldo, no Messi. But at the end of the day, I think one of the biggest matches, as you mentioned, will be Valencia against Real Madrid, who are trying, I suppose they're trying. They're top of the league with 2 wins and a draw. At the end of the day, they're better than Barcelona, who are 4th. But remember, these teams all have the same points with 7 points. So it's like you said, too early to say with the signings also maybe just being introduced. So at the end of the day, in that match, I think Real Madrid will come out tops with a win, maybe a 2-1 victory against Valencia, who you mentioned lost most of their players. And then going to the Serie A, it's bad. It's bad. When you're Juventus, and you lose a player like Ronaldo, you are 12th on the log, you draw and you lose your second match. No one knows what's going to happen there. But I do think they have quality players and they can get back to their winning ways. But they are playing a good team in Napoli, who have won both their matches, are sitting at 6 points and 5th on the table. I think this is for Serie A, it will be an interesting season because teams like Napoli, Milan, who are 4th, Inter Milan, who are 2nd, even Lazio, who are 1st, and don't forget Mourinho there at Roma, who are now 3rd and also won both their games. It will be an interesting season because all these teams now have a chance to revamp and recuperate to be, get back to being one of the best teams in the world. So it will be interesting. But I'll give the win to Napoli with a 2-0 victory.
Okay, let's move on to cricket. Erling Haaland on having 12 goals in 15 games for Norway. I don't score enough goals. In my opinion, I should have more goals than appearances. To be considered a good striker nowadays, do you need to score as many goals as appearances?
For me, I think it should be considered because remember, when you're a striker, you get judged by the number of goals that you score. And if you have more goals than appearances, shows that you're a little striker. As you are playing the games. You're not talking about players that, will participate in 5 games. So for me, more goals than appearances showcases a striker that is serious, something like Lewandowski. So Erling Haaland should be serious.
Maybe Erling Haaland, the Lewandowskis of this world, should have more goals than have appearances. But to be called a good striker, I don't think you need that type of output. It's only because of Ronaldo and Messi who've made this a norm that now apparently every player wants as many goals as he has appearances. But back in the day, having 1 goal every 2 games was a good strike rate, but Ronaldo and Messi messed that thing up for everybody.
Eduardo Camavinga said his choice for signing for Real Madrid was not based on money. Was it a good move to go to Madrid?
I suppose it was a good move to go to Real Madrid because the likes of Modric and Kroos and Casemiro are getting older, so he can be put in the squad. He can be a rotational player till he gets enough experience to be a first-team player. But In terms of a good move, yeah, I suppose it is. Look, I haven't seen much of him, so I can't speak on him. We'll just have to see how he performs this season.
For me, I also think it's a good move for the young lad. I've had the privilege of seeing a few matches. He plays good football. He's edgy, and I think he's quite quick. So I think with obviously, like you mentioned, the experience and coming in here and there in those games as Modric are getting older will help him, not to have too much pressure on his shoulders, and then he can make something out of himself at Madrid.
Platinum City Rovers have officially completed the signing of a midfielder, Opa Manyesa. Remember him? Does Manyesa have the legs to make a comeback?
Icon. Sometimes we must know when to throw in the towel. For me, Opa Manyesa is of age. And I think that maybe if he's looking at a coaching role, maybe it would be good for him to join Platinum City Rovers. And after that, maybe become the coach and try to take him to the PSL as well. But for me, for a comeback, I don't see it happening. I think it's a last kick of a dying horse.
I think he's moved to Mamelodi Sundowns, finished him off as a player. That was a wrong move, but our South African players think that going to a certain club because he's going to earn a certain amount of money is a good idea. Mamelodi Sundowns finished him off. He had a great career at Orlando Pirates. And just like you're saying, you could have had a position at Orlando Pirates as we speak, but unfortunately he can't. Now he's going to the likes of Platinum City Rovers. I don't think he'll make a comeback. He is too old right now. He had a good career while it lasted.
The South African government announced on Wednesday that fans will be allowed to go back into the stadium once they have been vaccinated. Is it the right time to allow fans back at the stadium?
I suppose it is. I mean, why not? If you can show somehow that you're vaccinated, but you know how we run things in South Africa. How am I going to show that I'm vaccinated? I'm going to walk around with that cardboard placard or whatever it's called to show people that I'm vaccinated. What if I lose it? Does it mean that as per South Africa, I am not vaccinated? So for me, the whole system in South Africa is a mess.
Yeah, I think I support that statement. I don't think the South African government should be allowing any fans back into the field, although we miss going to the stadium and so forth. But if you look at our vaccination numbers, they are not interesting. We're still talking about 2 million or 4 million or 6 million, when in South Africa we have 57 million people here or something related to that. So I think at the end of the day, let's get the vaccination right first to save people's lives. At the end of the day, this is a serious matter. And for me, once we get the vaccination right, then we can allow the fans back to the stadium.
England have performed well in the World Cup qualifiers. Should England be considered one of the favorites to win the World Cup next year?
For me, I don't think so. I mean, they've tried, even with the Nations Cup, they go to the final and all those things. So at the end of the day, it just never wants to come home. So for me, at the end of the day, although they've won 4 matches and drawn 1, I think that those are just the group states. I mean, they're playing against teams like Albania, Poland, Hungary, and Andorra and San Marino. So for me, nothing is coming home until they play against the big guys.
I agree with you there. England have had the lucky draw the last World Cup and also in the Euros to getting the easy side of the draw and to getting further in these competitions. Every time they meet a team that makes any kind of sense, they always get beaten. So I don't think England are good enough as of yet to win anything that makes sense. So it's not coming home anytime soon.
Yes, and our last quick hit, Bongani Zungu is back at French Club League 2 side Amiens after his loan spell at Rangers last season. Does he have the quality to become a first-team player at Amiens and return to Bafana setup maybe?
I think already he's good enough to be in the Bafana setup, but I suppose him not getting game time, he gets overlooked. But we can argue that Pesitao himself has never been playing for the past 6 months, but he gets game time for Bafana. So I think him in the place of a player like Toby Mvala would be great for the team. But anyway, I hope that he works hard and becomes a first team player for that team and returns back to Bafana.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. I think that Wani Zung is a very good player, and for the fact that he went overseas and he's still playing there, shows or indicates that. And these are big leagues. So for me, at the end of the day, him returning to the French league is good for him. He can, maybe get some game time and try to, revive his name there. And as for Bafana, I think Chris will give him an opportunity. He's not that old. I don't count him with all players that shouldn't be playing in Bafana. So I think that we actually need him right now, and he's a player that can impact other players alongside Pesitao.
And with that, we have come to the end of our show. Thank you for listening in and borrowing us your ears for 40 minutes. From me, Cheez, it is sayonara. Bongz.
Yes, and from me, Bongz, your co-host, thank you once again, and see you again next time when we, analyze the best out of football. From now until then, it is that show without a name.